Hey, sixth graders, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today's lesson, what we're going to be focusing on today is lesson 7.6, percents, decimals, and fractions. So lesson 7.5 was focusing on just percents. Now this time, in this lesson, we'll be focusing on changing decimals and fractions to percents. Now, with this lesson, there's multiple ways of turning decimals and fractions to percents. So I'm going to go through each different method you can do. Whichever one you think is the best, absolutely whatever works for you, do it that way. I'll tell you which way I prefer, but it's totally up to you which way you guys want to do it. Okay, so today's lesson is percents, decimals, and fractions. Okay, so for example 1, it's going to ask you to write each decimal as a percent. Okay, the first method that you can do is use place value. Okay, so what that means, whatever the last place value is, that's your denominator. Okay, so for example, in this first example, it's 3/10. That's the decimal. Okay, so then the first thing we have to do is, since it's in the tenths place, that's your denominator. Okay, 10 is your denominator, and then whatever the decimal is, that's your numerator. Okay, so then our decimal is 3, so that's our numerator. Now, we have to get this denominator to 100, because remember, percent means per 100. So we can't just leave it at 3/10, okay, because then we don't know what percent that is. So we have to get it to 100. So how do we get from 10 to 100? We multiply by 10, okay, and if we do that to the denominator, we have to do the same thing to the numerator. Okay, so 10 times 10 is 100, and then we go 3 times 10, which is 30. Okay, now, since it's 30/100, just like your lesson from 7.5, all right, whatever over 100, whatever the numerator is over 100, that's your percent. So then 30/100, the percent would be 30%. So that's your answer. Okay, so that's the first way of doing it. We're going to go through another example using a place value. Okay, so this next example is 0.43. So again, whatever place value that last digit is in the decimal, that's what you put it over. So the 4 is in the tenths, the 3 is in the hundredths. So then, since the 3 is in the hundredths, we put it over 100. All right, and then whatever the decimal is, that's your numerator. So then, since 43 is our decimal, that would be our whatever our numerator. Okay, and since it's already over 100 per 100, then our answer is 43%. Since it's already over 100, so it's nice when you have the decimal in the hundredths place, because then you just put it over 100. Okay, it's when it's in the tenths place that you have to multiply by 10, and then you'll eventually get there. But for the most part, this is pretty easy when it's over 100. Okay, so that's using place value. All right, now the second method is multiplying by 100. Now remember, when in lesson 7.5, when we divide by 100, we're making the number smaller, so then we're moving it to the left. All right, so when we had 75% and we wanted to change it to a decimal, all right, we would, decimal's right here, we would divide by 100 and move it to the left twice, because there's 2 zeros. Now, when we're multiplying by 100, we just move the decimal to the right, since when we multiply, we make a number bigger. Okay, so if we have 7,431 10,000ths, okay, multiplied by 100, instead of doing this, multiplying by 100 like that, you don't have to do that. Okay, you just have to move the decimal over to the right 2 places, because there's 2 zeros. So we have decimal 1, 2. Decimal goes right there. So then we have 74.31%. And that's our answer. Okay, so you just have to move that decimal over to the right 2 places. Okay, another example using this. All right, so we have 23 thousandths. All right, again, multiplied by 100. Decimals right here, move it over to the right 2 places since there's 2 zeros. So we have 1, 2. Okay, so our percent would be 2 3/10%. Now we don't need to put these zeros in front of the whole number because they don't represent anything. So you can just drop those zeros. Okay, but if we had 2 3/100, you have to put that 0 there, of course. Okay, but in this case, you don't have to. All right? If you have any questions again, don't be afraid to email me. All right, example 2. Write each fraction as a percent. Okay, so again, there's 2 different methods in doing this. The first method is write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Now this only works if the denominator is a factor of 100. Okay, so if we have 4/5 and we needed to get it to 100, okay, 5 can go into 100. All right, how many times? All right, 5 times what is 100? 20. And that equals 100. Okay, since you multiplied by a 20 in the denominator, you do the same thing to the numerator. So you times it by 20. So 4 times 20 is 80. And then anything over 100, that's your percent. So since 80 is your numerator, the percent would be 80%. Okay, that's method 1. All right, method 2 is use division to write the fraction as a decimal. Okay, so now you have a fraction of 3/8. So now this is where can 8 go into 100 evenly? It cannot. So this is where you have to divide numerator by denominator. Okay, so that method 1 would not work here. So we go numerator divided by denominator. All right, now you're doing long division. 8 goes into 3 how many times? 0. 0 times 8, 0, subtract, you get 3. Now before you drop a 0, remember you bring up the decimal. Drop a 0. So now we have 8 into 30. How many times can 8 go into 30? It can go into it 3 times without going over. 3 times 8 is 24. Subtract, you get 6. Drop another 0. 8 goes into 60 how many times? Okay, before it goes over, it can go into it 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract, you get 4. Drop another 0. Okay, you get 40. 8 can go into 40 evenly 5 times. And then you would get 40 and then 0. Okay, now you changed it to a decimal, but you still need to change it into a percent. Okay, so we have 375 thousandths. Okay, so you have to change that decimal into a percent. Now remember how you do that. You multiply by 100. So remember, you're making the number bigger, so you move the decimal to the right. So it would be 1, 2. All right, and then you would have 37 5/10%. Don't forget the percent sign. Okay, so again, don't just stop right here because that's a decimal. You need to change that decimal into a percent. You still need to multiply by 100. Don't forget that step. Okay, last example. About 39/50 of Earth's atmosphere is made up of nitrogen. About what percent of the atmosphere is nitrogen? Okay, so you have 39/50. Now, first thing you do, method 1 is the easiest because then you don't have to divide. All right, you check, is the denominator divisible by 100? In this case, it is. So, how do you get from 50 to 100? You multiply by 2. Okay, so you do the same thing to the numerator. You multiply by 2. All right, so 39 times 2 is 78. Okay, and then since it's any number over 100, that's your percent. So then it would be 78% would be your answer. 78% of the Earth's atmosphere is nitrogen. Okay? That's your lesson. That's lesson 7.6 for you. A shout out. This time I'll be picking sticks for the shout out. Oh, you guys aren't red. The clear ones. Alright, the shout out for this video, last one it went to Catherine. This shout out for this video goes to, oh, I drew Catherine again. She's lucky. She got called out twice. But for this, I'll call out Wyatt. Congratulations. This video goes out to you. Shout out to Wyatt. Hope you're having a great time at home. Hopefully you're not picking on your sister too much. Alright, make sure you behave. Alright, stay on top of your stuff. And that goes for everybody. Don't be too hard on your siblings, alright? Take it easy on them. Also, have a little guest visitor for you guys. Alright, here's Percy. Alright, he's doing good. We just actually clipped his nails. He's doing good. I think he's right now in summer mode because he's usually by himself in the summer, so he's getting acquainted better. He's kind of in the summer mood. He doesn't have a summer bod yet. He's working on that, hopefully. But no, he misses you guys. Whenever I'm in here, he calls. Usually, you guys are in here in the afternoon, and he's missing you guys. He's squealing and making some loud noises because he missed you guys. All right. If you have questions, don't be afraid to email me. Otherwise, I'll also, yeah. We'll get those YouTube live office hours set up for you guys, and hopefully I can answer some questions that way as well. All right, miss you guys. Hope to see you soon. Peace.